At my sister's wedding, the sun was perfect. Not too harsh, not too faint. White linen danced in the breeze, violins hummed through the garden, and everyone looked like they belonged in a glossy magazine spread. Everyone except my wife, Melissa. She wasn't supposed to be holding anyone's hand but mine. And yet, 10 rows behind the altar, in full view of everyone, she held his. Jason McAllister. Her coworker. Her, he's gay you have nothing to worry about personal trainer. The one who, apparently, just needed a place to crash that one time I came home early from my business trip and found his gym bag by our front door. They thought they were clever. They thought the garden was too chaotic for anyone to notice 2 joined hands under a silk napkin. They thought I hadn't seen it. But I had. Long before that moment. Because I had the hotel footage. Let me back up just a second. 3 nights before the wedding, Melissa said she needed to clear her head. Something about all the family tension was making her feel anxious, and she was going to check into a hotel alone for some spa time. That was the excuse. She even made a point of telling me, I'm not like other wives, Dylan. I don't hide things from you. She always did this. She confessed something harmless just to cover up something much worse. Like leaving a lipstick stain on a wine glass and saying it was from her friend Kelly, just to keep me from questioning whose perfume was on her dress. But this time, I followed my gut. And her Uber. What I saw at that hotel lobby 3 nights ago would have torn most men in half. But I didn't interrupt. I watched. I recorded. Jason met her outside the entrance. She kissed him, quick and careless. They laughed, whispered, then walked in together, hand in hand. She looked over her shoulder once, probably wondering if I'd somehow appear. I didn't. Not until the day of the wedding. I waited until the vows were just about to start. Until the guests had settled, the champagne had been poured, the cameras were rolling. My little sister, God bless her soul, was standing at the altar, beaming like a child about to blow out birthday candles. And that's when I walked up to the mic. My hand didn't shake. Not once. Sorry to interrupt, I said, voice calm, almost pleasant. But before we move forward with any vows today, I think it's important we all see something. I pulled a small flash drive from my jacket pocket and handed it to the DJ. He looked confused. Melissa looked pale. 30 seconds later, the projector flared to life. The screen was massive, meant for wedding slideshows and tear-jerking photo montages. Instead, it showed Melissa and Jason entering the hotel, laughing, kissing, groping each other like horny teenagers in an elevator. Some guests gasped. Some covered their mouths. Melissa? She didn't move. Jason let go of her hand like it burned him. My father-in-law clutched his chest. Someone screamed for help. The wedding was canceled. My sister fainted. And me? I left. But not before dropping the flash drive at Melissa's feet. She fell to her knees and tried to pick it up like it was a shattered heirloom. But it was just a copy. I had 5 more. Maybe 6. I wasn't sure. As I walked out, the silence was thicker than the air. No one said a word. The man they all thought was the calm, mild-mannered husband, the lucky guy who married the hot blonde, had just burned the whole charade to the ground. And I didn't even flinch. That was the moment she realized, the quiet ones don't scream. They detonate. They say hindsight is 20/20ths, but I'd argue it's more like 2010 when you've been played. Looking back, the signs were there long before the hotel footage. I wasn't just blind. I was willfully blind. Because the truth, when it finally claws its way out, is rarely convenient. And Melissa knew exactly how to make a man doubt his own gut. It started with little things. Late-night showers. Her phone always on silent. Lip gloss on a Tuesday, but sweatpants to our anniversary dinner. She began, working late, more often. But when I offered to pick her up from the gym, she suddenly got rides from Kelly. This mysterious Kelly, who I'd never seen, whose Instagram was private, and who apparently was always just around the corner. Then there was Jason. The guy she swore was harmless. The guy who just wanted career advice. The guy who accidentally sent a peach emoji to her at midnight. Melissa laughed it off. Dylan, it's a joke. God, you're being so insecure lately. Insecure. That word was her favorite weapon. Anytime I raised an eyebrow, she'd act offended. Call me paranoid. Ask if I needed therapy. Turn the whole thing around until I was apologizing. I caught myself saying things like, you're right. I'm just being weird, more times than I can count. She was good. Not just at lying. At rewriting reality. I didn't even notice the way she started pulling away physically. Fewer touches. Cold kisses. And when I brought it up, she acted like I was pressuring her. Why are you obsessed with keeping score, she said once. Marriage isn't a transaction. Funny how she brought up the word transaction when everything with her became exactly that. The final straw, the moment I knew something real was going on, came when she came back from one of her girls' nights. I was up late, pretending to sleep on the couch. She didn't know I'd stayed up. She walked in, smelling like hotel soap and cheap cologne. Not mine. Not the fancy kind I buy. No, this was budget aftershave, the kind Jason probably kept in his gym bag. Her dress was wrinkled, no bra, hair messy, but not in a windblown way. The kind of messy you get when someone's been all over you. I asked how the night was. She said, "Fun. You should have come." And I swear she smiled a little. That's when I stopped pretending. The next day, I made some calls. My friend Mason works in hotel security. He owed me a favor. I gave him the dates Melissa said she was at a spa. He called back the next evening. "Dude," he said, "you're gonna want to see this yourself." He didn't send the footage right away. He made me drive to his office. When I got there, he had it queued up on a screen. Jason and Melissa, hand in hand. Room key. Elevator. Laughing. Her head on his shoulder. Then the door closing behind them. I sat there for a minute. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just stared. Mason didn't say a word. When I finally stood up, I asked him to copy it onto a few drives. "Can you make 5?" I asked. He looked at me, then at the screen. "Make it 6. Smart man. In that moment, I didn't feel broken. I felt awake, like someone had been slowly suffocating me in my sleep, and I'd just taken my first breath in years. I went home. She was already asleep, or pretending to be. I looked at her and realized something I hadn't admitted until then. I didn't love her anymore. I loved the version of her she killed. And now I was going to bury her lies in the most public way possible. My sister's wedding was 3 days away, and so was her reckoning. The 72 hours before my sister's wedding weren't peaceful, they were surgical. Every move I made was deliberate. Every word I spoke to Melissa was measured. I became a man with a mission: destroy the illusion, but do it with grace. Not for revenge. For clarity. Because you can't reason with poison. You drain it. Melissa had no idea I'd seen the footage. That I'd watched her lean into another man's neck like it was her home. That I'd counted the seconds between the elevator closing and the moment the hallway camera blinked to black, exactly 6 minutes. The same number of years we'd been married. She thought we were still playing her game. So I played back. The night before the wedding, she asked what I was wearing. "Probably that navy suit you like," I said. "With the silver tie." She smiled like everything was normal. "Good. You'll look great standing next to me." The word next burned in my ears. That night, while she was in the shower, I stared at her phone on the charger. Face down. Locked. But I didn't need it. I didn't care what she was hiding anymore. I already had what mattered. I didn't sleep much. I lay awake, rehearsing, replaying the video in my mind, thinking about the look on her face when the screen lit up, wondering if Jason would try to walk out casually or if he'd crumble on the spot. They always think they can lie their way through it. But you can't negotiate with truth when it's playing in 1080p, surround sound, in front of 200 people and a priest. The morning of the wedding, Melissa acted strange. Not guilty, excited. She picked a lavender dress. Fitted. Tied in all the places she knew would draw eyes. "You're going to love how I look today," she said, spinning in front of the mirror. I nodded. "Everyone will." She thought that was a compliment. We arrived at the venue around noon. My sister was glowing. My mom cried when she saw her in the dress. Melissa helped pin her veil, smiled for photos, even gave a toast with a fake little tremble in her voice. The show was on, and I was just waiting for the perfect moment to end it. Jason arrived an hour later. Alone. No tie. Button-down shirt, sleeves rolled like he was too cool to dress up for someone else's big day. Melissa spotted him from across the garden and gave the faintest nod. That was all I needed to see. I moved toward the DJ booth like I was checking in. Slipped him the flash drive with a sticky note. "Play when I give the signal." No questions. He blinked but nodded. I stood by the bar, sipping water. Watching. Waiting. At one point, Melissa walked up behind me and put her hand on my back. "You okay, babe? You look tense." "I'm just thinking about family," I said. "And what they deserve." She didn't notice the edge in my voice. Or maybe she did and thought she could smooth it over later with kisses and fake apologies. But there would be no later. My sister stood under the arch, her groom smiling like he won the lottery. Guests were seated. Cameras ready. The music cued. And then I stepped forward. I didn't rush. Didn't raise my voice. "Before we begin," I said. I need to show something important. Gasps. Confused glances. Melissa froze. Jason dropped his champagne glass. I turned toward the screen. The footage rolled. 30 seconds in, the garden went silent. And Melissa's perfect smile collapsed. It took exactly 23 seconds for the entire wedding to fall apart. Melissa's hand was still frozen mid-air, like she had been raising her glass for a toast when the footage began. Now, that hand hovered uselessly, trembling, no place to go. The screen showed her in that hotel lobby, her arm around Jason, her lips grazing his jaw. Then both of them entering the elevator like a couple with nothing to hide. My sister's groom turned to look at me, then at the screen, then at Melissa. His smile vanished, replaced by a furrowed brow, then a slow, sinking disgust. Some people gasped. Others whispered. One of my cousins covered her daughter's eyes. Melissa didn't cry. She didn't even speak. She stood there, jaw clenched, eyes darting like a trapped animal trying to find an escape route in a room with no doors. Jason took one step back, then another. Then he turned. Coward. But I wasn't done yet. I walked over to the center, calmly took the mic again, and said, for those of you wondering, yes, that's my wife. And yes, that's the man she said was just a friend. A trainer. Someone she swore was harmless. No one moved. Her father clutched his chest and staggered back into a chair. People rushed to help him, but Melissa just stood there, stunned, as if her feet were cemented into the earth. My sister deserves better than to start her marriage with lies in the air, I continued. And I deserved better than 6 years with someone who lies this easily. Melissa finally stepped forward. Her voice cracked when she said, Dylan, can we talk about this? Not here. I shook my head. No. Here is perfect. This is where you wore the mask best. Let everyone see who's behind it. She blinked hard, like she wanted to cry but didn't know how. You ambushed me, she whispered. This is cruel. Cruel. I repeated. Cruel as kissing another man in a hotel hallway while your husband plans your anniversary dinner. She opened her mouth again, but I cut her off. I left a copy of the video on your chair. Feel free to explain it to your parents. Or Jason. Or yourself. With that, I stepped away. Guests began shifting in their seats. Murmurs rose like a tide. Someone asked if the wedding was canceled. My sister stood at the altar, hand over her mouth, staring at me. She didn't say anything, but her eyes said everything. Thank you. Melissa dropped into a seat, staring at the USB in her hand like it was radioactive. Her face flushed. Anger? Shame? Panic? I didn't care anymore. I walked past her, slow and steady, like I had all the time in the world. Because in that moment, I did. The weight of her lies, of the gaslighting, of the manipulation, all of it slid off my shoulders like a heavy coat I didn't realize I was wearing until I finally let it fall. I didn't look back. Not even when I heard her call my name in a voice that sounded more desperate than sorry. Not even when Jason tried to slip out the side gate and someone yelled, coward. Not even when her mother burst into tears and demanded answers. Because in that moment, I realized something powerful. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. Especially not her. I had exposed the truth. And the silence that followed? It was the loudest justice I'd ever heard. I didn't drive straight home after walking out of the wedding. Truth is, I didn't really have a destination. I just drove. Windows down. No music. Just the sound of wind cutting through silence that had become my only real companion for the last few months. I must have passed 4 exits before pulling over at a gas station. Not because I needed fuel, but because I needed to breathe. That's when the messages started. The first was from Melissa. Just 2 words. We need. I didn't read the rest. Deleted it. The second came in seconds later. I can explain. Please. Explain what? How you accidentally fell mouth first onto Jason at a Holiday Inn. The third was longer. Apologies. Desperation. Blame shifting. Typical. It was all about her feelings. Her confusion. Her mistake. She never once said, I hurt you. Just, I was lonely. I didn't mean for it to go that far. You weren't the same man anymore. That last one? That's the one that stuck. Because she was right. I wasn't the same man. And thank God for that. The man she married, the one she thought she could manipulate, gaslight, cheat on, and keep in her back pocket, he died the second that video played in front of 200 people. The man I'd become? He didn't answer texts. He blocked them. So I did. I blocked her number, her social media, her email. Not in anger. In clarity. That night, I stayed at a friend's house. Mason, the same one who gave me the footage, welcomed me in like he'd been waiting. He didn't ask questions. Just poured me a drink and turned on a game. You did what 90% of men only dream about, he said. You took the power back. Maybe he was right. But it didn't feel like power. Not yet. It felt like emptiness. Not the kind that hollows you. The kind that clears you. Like the silence after a fire, when the smoke finally settles and you can breathe again. The next morning, I woke to more messages. This time from her family. Her mother called me cruel. Her father, who nearly collapsed the day before, sent a voicemail that sounded like a man pleading with a son-in-law he actually respected. But my favorite message came from Jason. One line. You didn't have to do that. Oh, but I did. Because sometimes, justice doesn't show up in a courtroom. Sometimes, it shows up on a 20-foot wedding projector in HD with surround sound. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I called a lawyer. Divorce? He asked. Expedited, I said. No negotiations. The lawyer laughed softly. Sounds like there's a story there. There's a movie there, I replied. I didn't want the house. She could keep it. Every corner smelled like betrayal anyway. I wanted my peace back. I wanted my name. My time. Everything else was just furniture. When I went home that evening, I opened the front door slowly, expecting the scent of her perfume to slap me in the face. But it didn't. The air was stale. Dead. Like she had packed up her essence the moment her mask was pulled off. She was gone. Half the closet empty. Drawers open. A wine glass still on the counter. But she left one thing behind. The flash drive. Not the one from the wedding. A different one. Labeled. If you still care. I didn't open it. Because I didn't. The next week unfolded in a blur. It wasn't grief. It wasn't rage. It was something colder. Cleaner. A kind of inner silence that hummed louder than screaming ever could. Melissa tried everything: calls from new numbers, emails with subject lines like "please just one conversation," and "we were happy once." I didn't respond. I didn't even open them. There's a strange kind of peace in ignoring someone who once made you question your own sanity. But she didn't stop. 3 days after I served the divorce papers, she showed up at my office. I didn't even look up from my desk. She waited by the door, arms crossed, tears carefully painted on her cheeks. A performance. Every gesture rehearsed. She didn't come for closure, she came for control. You won't even talk to me, she said softly. After everything? I finally looked up. You mean after you humiliated me in front of my family? After you lied, gaslit, and made me feel insane every time I trusted my gut? After I watched you with Jason on a hotel camera like it was a Netflix drama? Her mouth opened slightly, but she had nothing. Just more empty silence. I stood. Not angry. Just done. You don't get to cry here, I said. You didn't bring tears when you were sneaking around behind my back. Don't bring them now. She stepped forward, voice shaky. I was lost. I thought you didn't love me anymore. You were always working. You were distant. I smiled bitterly. I was working for us. You were distant because you were busy playing house with a guy who can't spell commitment. I made a mistake, she said. No, I replied. You built one. She took another step, whispering like it was a last lifeline. Can't we start over? I laughed once. Cold and short. Melissa, the only thing we're starting over is our lives separately. She froze, blinking fast. You think you're better off without me? I shrugged. No. I know I am. There was no screaming. No tears on my side. Just finality. She left, slamming the door behind her like she was trying to shatter the truth. But it was already unbreakable. The next few days were surprisingly easy. Divorce meetings were smooth. She tried to ask for the house at first, then backed down when my lawyer presented a folder labeled evidence of infidelity. I didn't even have to speak. I wasn't out for revenge. I was out for freedom. Jason vanished. Word got around that he quit the gym and left town. Probably too ashamed to show his face after the wedding disaster went semi-viral online. One of the guests had filmed it, put it on TikTok. Wedding ruined by cheating wife. Groom's brother drops bombshell. 1 million views in 2 days. I didn't post it. I didn't have to. The internet did what it does best. One night, I sat alone in my kitchen, sipping coffee at midnight. My apartment was smaller, quieter. But it was mine. No lies in the walls. No mascara on the pillowcases. Just me. The flash drive she left sat untouched on the table. I picked it up, turned it in my hand. If you still care. I stood up, walked to the window, and stared out into the empty street. Then I snapped the flash drive in half. Threw it in the trash. Because I didn't care. Not anymore. That bridge had burned, and for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of the fire. I thought the worst was over. Divorce papers were signed. The house was hers. My peace was mine. I had everything I wanted, until I realized something no one tells you about betrayal. It echoes. Not like a loud bang. More like a quiet, persistent hum. A memory that plays in the background when you're brushing your teeth, ordering lunch, or walking past a store window and accidentally catch your own reflection. For weeks, even after Melissa was gone, she lingered. Not physically, emotionally. In the habits I had built around her. In the way I still reached for 2 mugs instead of 1. The way I still expected my phone to light up with her fake, on my way, messages that always meant, I'm with him. Give me time to lie. But the worst ghost? Jason. I didn't expect to hear from him. I figured he'd hide forever. But cowards don't always stay quiet. Sometimes, they want to be forgiven. One day, I got a message from a random email. Dylan, we need to talk. Man to man. I ignored it. He sent another. I didn't know she was married at first. Another lie. He was at our wedding. Sat in the 4th row. Ate our cake. She said you didn't care about her anymore. I almost laughed. That was her favorite deflection. Blame the man who paid the mortgage. 3 days later, I was walking out of my office when I saw him, leaning against a black sedan across the street. Same smug posture. Same fake confidence. He waved like we were old friends. I didn't wave back. Dylan, he called out as I crossed. 2 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I should have kept walking. But some part of me, the part that wanted to look the man who broke my home in the eyes, stopped. Make it 1, I said. Jason looked thinner. Older. Like public shame aged him faster than time. He shoved his hands in his jacket and cleared his throat. I didn't come to start anything. I came to say I'm sorry. I tilted my head. For what? Sleeping with my wife? Ruining a family? Destroying a wedding? He flinched. All of it. I messed up. I didn't think. No, I cut him off. You did think. You thought I'd never find out. You thought she was worth it. You just didn't think I'd light the whole thing on fire. He looked down. I got fired. Lost half my clients. My gym cut ties with me. I nodded slowly. Actions. Consequences. He looked up, almost pleading. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just, maybe don't hold on to the hate, man. It'll eat you alive. I stepped closer. Jason, I'm not holding on to hate. I'm holding on to truth. And truth doesn't eat you, it sets you free. I turned and walked away. I never looked back. If he said anything else, I didn't hear it. Didn't care to. That night, I sat on my balcony, letting the wind hit my face. No music. No drinks. Just the quiet. And in that silence, something shifted. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. Melissa no longer had a face in my mind. Jason no longer had a voice. They were just shadows, ghosts trying to haunt a man who'd already walked into the light. And I wasn't going back. Not ever. The final stage of betrayal isn't rage. It's indifference. True indifference isn't numb. It's calm. It's looking at what once shattered you and feeling nothing but distance. Weeks passed. Then a month. Melissa never showed up again. Her silence became the apology she never gave. The world didn't stop for either of us, but mine finally started moving forward. I moved into a smaller place near the lake. Nothing flashy. Just clean, simple, and honest. 3 things our marriage had never been. One evening, while folding laundry, I found something I hadn't seen in a while. Our old wedding photo, buried in a forgotten box. I almost threw it away out of instinct. But instead, I looked. She looked happy in it. Not in love, just pleased with the performance. Like a woman who'd secured a position in a play and was proud of how well she nailed her audition. I wasn't smiling in the photo. Not really. I looked like a man trying hard to believe in what was in front of him. And that's the part that hit me hardest. It wasn't just that she lied. It was that I let myself believe her. That I twisted logic and ignored evidence to protect a version of her that didn't exist. Because the truth is, betrayal doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in. It whispers. And if you don't listen, it roars. The pain wasn't just from what she did. It was from how long I stayed after I knew. But I don't beat myself up for it anymore. I needed that pain. I needed to be cracked open to see what I'd let rot inside my own life. And once I saw it, I chose to rebuild, brick by brick, on my terms. I started going to the gym again. Not to escape, but to reconnect with myself. Started meeting new people. Didn't rush into anything. Just lived. Honestly, one afternoon, I bumped into someone at the cafe. Spilled her coffee. Apologized. She laughed, said it was the most exciting thing that happened to her all week. Her name was Lauren. We ended up talking for 3 hours. She didn't know me, didn't know my story, and that was perfect. We went on a few dates. No pressure, no lies, just truth, even in the awkward silences. I told her everything eventually. About Melissa, about Jason, the wedding. She didn't flinch. She said, "Damn, that's rough, but you're still standing." And I was. For anyone who's reading this, or living something like it, here's what I'll tell you. Don't wait for the fire to get so big it burns everything. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And if someone makes you feel crazy for noticing cracks, it's because they're hiding the wreckage behind the wall. And when it all falls apart, don't break. Rebuild. Better. Smarter. Stronger. My name's Dylan. I survived betrayal. I buried a marriage built on lies. I watched the woman I once loved become a stranger before my eyes. But I didn't let it break me. And now I wake up without waiting for a lie to fall out of someone's mouth. I sleep with peace. I drink my coffee in silence. And that silence? It's the sound of a man finally free,